Strat-O-Matic Excel Carryover League. Brought to you by the Shrimp Troller. 1972 to 1975.
Game 487, Baltimore at Toronto. Welcome back, baseball fans, to 1972-75 Carryover League. We are back in a race to the pennant, and we are in the American League East today. A lot to talk about. We'll just go right into the situation of who is playing and so forth. So, first place lead in the East. The Blue Jays, the Toronto Blue Jays, a fictional team. Well, you get the idea. They didn't exist in this timeline. So we gave them players, and they've just been pretty effective the last 2 years. Competitive, winning team, snuck into the playoffs last year, playing good baseball this year. They have a 1.5 game lead over Baltimore, with up to 7 games left in this competition for first place. Baltimore beat them 4-2 the first time around, so they have a +2 tiebreaker advantage. So in 7 games, if Baltimore wins 4 of 7, they would cut the lead to a half a game, but they'd have the tiebreaker. Actually, they'd pad the tiebreaker, so they would be eligible for the Game 8. Baltimore needs to win 5 of 8 games. So basically, as soon as Toronto wins 4 or Baltimore wins 5, the series is over, depending on how many games were played. So let's take a look and see what has gone on in this series, because this is a wild, thrilling series, believe it or not, folks. Okay, a lot of all-stars, a lot to talk about in Game 1. Jerry Royce, the all-star starter for the Blue Jays, signed as a compensation pick in the draft, away from the Pirates. Jim Palmer for the Orioles. Early scoring, sac fly crane pull, RBI triple, Tommy A.G., Oriole killer. Basically, the Blue Jays, also known as New York Mets North, at least offensively, get runners on every inning against Palmer. Oh, by the way, in the 7th inning, a 2-out RBI single by Cleon Jones, Oriole killer. Okay, but in the 2nd inning, the Orioles start stealing bases to success, but doesn't achieve a lot of runs. They get a walk, stolen base, RBI single, Bobby Grich. Stole 3 bases in 4 innings, only 1 run scored. Then they decide to go back to Earl Weaver baseball. Pitching, defense, and the 3-run homer. So Belanger singles, Bobby Grich walks. After a Brooks Robinson strikeout, another all-star, Baltimore's Ken Singleton with a 3-run homer off of Jerry Royce, And, yeah, that's their ball game there. Palmer leaves after 8 innings, giving up 12 hits and 3 runs. Grant Jackson, 3 up and 3 down in the 9th. Baltimore wins Game 1, 4-3, and that pulls them within a half game. Let's check out game number 2 in Baltimore. Oh boy, this is a wild one. This is Doyle Alexander for Toronto, pitched for Baltimore in 72, versus Milt Pappas, pitched for the Cubs in 72, pitched for Baltimore in the 60s, was traded for Frank Robinson. Orioles brought him back. Anyway, one team maximizes base runners, the other team minimizes them. 2nd inning, single, Jim Brazil, 3-run bomb for the Blue Jays. 3rd inning, double, Ed Kranepool, another Met, RBI single, 4-0. Bottom of the 3rd, a couple singles, a ground ball, 2nd and 3rd, 2 outs, and it's a rare 2-base error on Blue Jay All-Star Mike Lum. If you've been following along, you know how great Mike Lum has been the last few years for them. 2-base error cuts the lead to 3-2. That doesn't seem to matter to the Blue Jays because Milt May, solo shot. And then Tommy A.G., another Met. Yeah, you get the idea. Solo shot, and this thing is 6-2, and Baltimore fans are feeling that same thing in their stomach. Have been feeling all year. But these Orioles are past their prime, and they're toast. But in the bottom of the 5th inning, you have a Tom Hutton single, a Bobby Grich single, and then another Kenny Singleton 3-run homer, and it's 6-5. It stays this way until the 8th inning. Pappas is going after 5. Dyer Miller comes in for 2 2/3 innings. Struggles in the 8th. First and second with 2 outs. They bring in Wayne Garland. And Jim Brazil, you remember him from the 2nd inning when he hit a 3-run homer? He hits another 3-run homer, and the Blue Jays have a 9-5 lead, and they're calling and whatever Blue Jays do, and crowing and stellar jaying and, crow hopping or whatever the heck. I don't know. They're making some squawking sounds to pester their bird friends from the south. Doesn't matter. Alexander leaves after 7. They turn it over to the lefty, Eddie Bain, to get some of these lefties out of the lineup from Baltimore, like Al Bunbury and Tom Hutton and so forth. Doesn't work. Lee May singles. Bunbury triples. You get a single by Brooks Robinson. It's 9-7. Then in the bottom of the 9th, the Toronto closer is Elias Sosa. In the 9th, you get a strikeout. You get a Bobby Grich walk. You get a fly ball to center field. And then with 1 out to get, he walks Lee May, 1st and 2nd, 2 outs. Earl Williams double to center field off his card. Lee May's trucking around from first trying to score off the -1 arm. He does. He slides in. Baltimore gets 2 in the 8th, 2 in the 9th, tied at 9. Bottom of the 10th inning, now they go to their 3rd reliever, Hennigan. You get a walk. You get a single and a stolen base and a single, RBI single by Bobby Grich. And the Orioles walk it off 10-9. For the first time in a while, Toronto doesn't seem to have the answers. They are clearly struggling in the series, losing 1-run games. And the starting pitching has not gotten past the 7th inning. If you recall the previous series, they had 4 consecutive complete games against Boston. Held the Red Sox to 5 runs in 4 games. It was insane. Law of averages catch up to the advantageous Orioles, who have now beat them 6 out of 8 times. So let's see what happens when we go to Canada. The Orioles are now a half game ahead. Game number 3, Mike Cuellar, Clyde Wright. Almost identical cards for these two lefties. And this is a low-scoring affair. Into the 4th, we get a 2-out double by Ted Ford. RBI single by that Jim Brazil guy. Man, he's ticked he didn't go to the All-Star game as well as he's played, in addition to Mike Lum. 1-0. Then you get a Mike Lum RBI single. They just can't get him out. But in the 6th inning, after a couple outs, you get walk, single, 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 and the Orioles tie the game at 2. Then in the 7th inning, Clyde Wright's still in there. They're leaning on him as he's a starter 8. And remember, the Toronto pitchers like to go 9 innings. They're not asking for help. This is almost like a Billy Martin managed team, which leaves their starters out there to rot on the vine, leave them out there too long. Number 9 hitters out. Grich, Robinson, single. Singleton pops out. 2 on, 2 outs. It's Earl Williams with the 3-run homer off of Clyde Wright, and it is 5-2. And Mike Cuellar gets the first complete game victory for the Orioles. 9 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, 4 walks, and 4 Ks. Baltimore rips off their 3rd consecutive win, this one in Toronto. 5-2. They now find themselves a game and a half ahead. But remember, you got to play these out. Up to 7 games, possibly an 8th game tiebreaker to distinguish who's in 1st and who's in 2nd. And then we get to game 4. Oh my goodness. Baylor Moore, acquired in the Dave McNally, Kenny Singleton deal for Baltimore. Carl Morton. Last time we saw him, he shut out the Red Sox. Earlier this year, he shut out the Orioles. My goodness, folks. Bottom of the second inning, you get a single, a two-run double by Jim Brazil. Oh, my God. MVP for the Blue Jays. An RBI ground out by Tommy Agee and an RBI single by Tim Foley. 3-0 Blue Jays. Will this be their first win? Well, let's see what happens in the fourth. You get a single, a walk. You get a single by Lee May. RBI ground out by Al Bunbury, beating out a fielder's choice. He gets thrown out to end the inning, but it's 3-2. Then in the sixth inning, after an out, Grich walks, steals second. Brooks Robinson, RBI single. And then a single by May and an RBI single by Bunbury. And the Orioles have a 4-3 lead. But in the bottom of the seventh, Baylor Moore's left in there just a little bit too long. Jim Brazil walks. After 2 outs, you get a Carl Taylor walk, a Dan Monson single. Then the All-Star Mike Lum stepping into the batter's box. Baltimore goes to the bullpen, brings in Dyer Miller. RBI single Mike Lum. And just like that, the Blue Jays take a 5-4 lead. Okay, Morton is gone after 7. And in the 8th, they bring in Eddie Bain, a lefty, because the lefty's Bunbury's coming up, and he's a .337 hitter, so that's the get to Bunbury, and then they'll go to a righty. But the problem with Eddie Bain is he can't get anybody out. A single by Brooks Robinson, a double by Ken Singleton, and a 2-run single by Lee May, and that's a 6-5 lead. And the Boo Birds come out in Toronto. As this bullpen has just been troublesome, really troublesome for the Blue Jays this year, as great as the starting pitching has been. And the Blue Jays really need to hold their opponents to 3 runs or less to have success, is what we're finding. 6-5 game. Dyer Miller, who got the final out in the 7th inning, sticks around in the 8th. In the 9th inning, Grant Jackson's ready to go. But the Orioles stick with Dyer Miller. They like the matchups. They have some lefties coming up, and believe it or not, in a reverse platoon, Dyer Miller, a righty, is better against lefties, and Grant Jackson, a lefty, is better against righties. Dyer Miller gives up a walk, 3 outs in the 9th. He gets the win because he was on the mound when they took the lead in the 8th. 2 1/3 innings, 3 hits, a walk allowed. Baltimore, another 1-run win, 6-5. 3 1-run wins and 1 3-run win. They've ripped off 4 straight wins. They're 2.5 games ahead. And just like that, it's what do you say? It's chalk. It's paper. They're just playing to the cards now, folks. The Blue Jays are finally starting to look at their Strat-O-Matic cards, going, oh, I get it. Yeah. Like Darrell Chaney, who's been hitting 400 for the last month. He looked at his Strat-O-Matic card and said, "Oh, I'm a 200 hitter. Oh, okay. Sorry about that." The only ones who are blindfolded and playing through the slump is Jim Brazil and Mike Lum. They are tearing it apart. And that's all the Orioles seem to have to contend with here, as they rip off 4 straight wins, very reminiscent of previous year Orioles. They finally borrowed some of the Detroit Tiger Fountain of Youth potion that the Tigers used to get to a World Series a year ago. And now they've got, their thoughts are in their head. They're like, oh, wait a minute. We don't have to play 162 games. We can win a short sample size World Series. It's not out of the question. We got the American League East in control at the moment. So here is the current standings, and you see here is Baltimore. 0 means they're in first. 20-15, and the Blue Jays, with 4 straight losses, fall into a tie with Boston, 2.5 games back. There's up to 4 games left. Toronto has to win all 4. If they win all 4 games, it means that the teams split 8 games, and the Orioles find themselves a game and a half back, even though they have the head-to-head tiebreaker. And that's just too bad on them. So the Orioles need 1 more victory. Could it be today? We are in Toronto for a Game 5, and we got a pitcher's matchup for you, folks. For the Orioles, they're sending cakes. That's what Earl Weaver called him. Jim Palmer, 1973, 22-9 with a 2.40 ERA in 296 innings. in a clinching game, even though it's, look, they might be up 4-0, but I don't want to be playing around with the Toronto Blue Jays, number one. And number two, you know, this doesn't clinch the American League East. This just puts them in first place till the next round. So they have a great chance of winning the American League East if they can beat the Blue Jays today. For the Blue Jays, they will send one of their two All-Stars, Jerry Royce. He pitched very well in Game 1 until he served up a 3-run homer to Kenny Singleton. His 75-card, 18 wins with a 2.54 ERA, 237 innings for a Pirate team that for some reason, well, not for some reason, they have no use for Jerry Royce because they already have too many lefties. They've got Candelaria, Rooker, and Ramon Hernandez in their pen. So, Baltimore at Toronto in Canada, the Great White North. Let's get started. Leading off for Baltimore is Bobby Grich. 54 off of Royce is a pop to short. Brooks Robinson, 56, short X. Tim Foley, a 2 shortstop, makes the play. And Kenny Singleton, 57, is another K. Great start for Royce. Jerry Hairston, 67, is a pop to second. The Blue Jays have retooled their lineup, moved a lot of pieces around. They had been hanging with a pretty much standard lineup, figuring that, okay, we'll lose a game or two, but a game or two turned into 3 or 4, and now they are suddenly in panic mode, and they've shifted their lineup around. Ed Kranepool now on the 2 spot. 1-6, that seemed to work. Double 1 to 10 is a base hit. Cleon Jones, 67 is a K. The Blue Jays have 3 Miracle Mets in the lineup, hoping that'll work. They've got Cleon, they've got Kranepool, and of course they got Tommy Agee. They used to have Don Clendenon, he retired. 2 outs, man at first for Mike Lum. They moved him into the cleanup spot. He's the team hero. For better or for worse, here's the pitch. 2-6 is a grounder first. By the way, the Blue Jays have no speed. None. E's, D's. Tim Foley's a B stealer. That's the only guy who is eligible to steal a base. And if they had some speed on this team, they roll a lot of those pluses, and they hit a lot of double plays. If they can just get rid of that, that might be the next stage of building out this franchise. Top of the second. It'll be Earl Williams. 2-4. It's a grounder to short. Doug DeCinces, 66, flies to center. And Lee May, 47, base hit. Number 7 hitter, Dick Sharon, former Tiger. 58 is a fly to left. Bottom of 2, and now they got Jim Brazil. They moved him up to the 5 hole. They left him at 7 because he was crushing it in the 7 hole, but the team was losing. So now they moved him to the 5 hole, hoping he'll continue to crush it. 59, rolls a second. Tommy Agee, 53, left X, but you got, Sharon out there is a 2E11. Makes the catch. Milt May, 412, center. We go to the 3rd. Paul L.D. Blair. 2-7 is a base hit. Good news for Baltimore. That means that Belanger can do a hit and run, not have to roll the dice to hit. The hit and run is an 11. That means he's got to make a stolen base attempt, and he steals on a 4. Because Belanger is a C hit runner, not a B. So that's a stolen base attempt, not an advancing the runner, and he's successful on a 4. So it actually works out for the Orioles. Runner at second, nobody out. Do we bunt in the 3rd inning with Mark Belanger? Have we gotten to that point? Yeah. We're going to do it. First bunt in the 3rd inning in I don't know how many years. I don't think I can recall the last time I bunted in the 3rd inning, but here goes one because it's Mark Belanger, and it's barely good. He rolled a 9. So we have a runner at 3rd with 1 out. Trying the inside baseball deal. They're going to bring the infield up, though. Every run's precious with Palmer and Royce on the mound. Bobby Grich. 67's a K, and with 2 outs, it's Brooks Robinson. 3-6, single one is 6, and he lines out on a 20. No luck for the Orioles there. Bottom of the third. Daryl Cheney, 38's a K. Tim Foley, 6'10", center X. 1E7 is Paul Blair, makes the grab. Jerry Hairtown. Jerry Hairston, 6'11". Left X. Your left fielder is Dick Sharon, 2E11 left. Makes the catch. We go to the fourth. Kenny Singleton, 56. Short X. Tim Foley, a 2E29 at short, makes the play. Earl Williams, 2-9's a K. Doug DeCinces, 47's a base hit, and with 2 outs. Lee May, 68, flies to right, not showing any cards because nobody's doing anything. Bottom of the fourth. Ed Kranepool, 42, center. Cleon Jones, 110, third, and the Mike Lum, 1-6 is a base hit. Jim Brazil, 1-8. Let's take a look at the card. It's not a homer. We should be able to look at the card for other reasons. So this guy, Jim Brazil, my goodness. He loves YouTube as well. I think he's had rolled 1-5 and 1-6 on both sides in most of the Toronto games that have been broadcast. Here he rolls 1-8, which is a base hit. So, if you're wondering, 72 Atlanta Brave, 85 at-bats, 5 home runs as a pinch hitter. Probably was one of the league leaders in pinch hit home runs, if I were to guess. Could play first and third. And then he vanishes from planet Earth. We don't know what happens to him, but this wonderful card exists just in the year of 72. It is the 4th and final year Toronto is using it to their advantage. And when you're a team like this, you need every advantage you can get. 1-8 is a single to right. Lum will not get thrown out at third. With 2 outs, it's Miracle Met Tommy A.G. 310, let's look at Miracle Man AG. So he's past his prime now in 73. He's with the Cardinals as well. He's hitting 222 with 11 dingers. But the power is there versus righties versus lefties. And 310 is double 1 and 19, and the Blue Jays get on the board. Second and third for Milt May. 210 flies to right field. Well, after 2 outs, 3 straight hits by the 3 most effective Blue Jays in the series, Lum, Brazil, and AG. And that's probably a smart move, putting them together now for more to magnify their punch. As we go to the 5th in a 1-0 affair, it's Dick Sharon. 5'10", catcher's X. And Lum's a 3E3. Not Lum. May's a 3E3 catcher. He makes the play. Paul L.D. Blair, 3'11". It's a fly ball to right. And Belanger, 58, flies to left. Orioles are up to their old ways early on in this. Will it stay that way? Bottom of the 5th. Let's pause a moment for station identification.
This is the Shrimp Trawler video channel.
Este es el canal de videos de camaroneros.
A 1-0 affair. Can they give more support to Jerry Royce? It'll be Daryl Cheney. 35 is a fly ball to right. Tim Foley, 53, left X. 211 and left. And he's going to get a double off the defense of Dick Sharon, who's been an inauspicious. You know, sometimes you get lucky with a free agent. Other times they stink up the joint, and that guy has stunk up the joint. We've seen some great free agents throughout some of the other successful teams. Jerry Hairston, runner at second. 48, second X. Grinch is a 1E20. All the Orioles are 1s, but they have high E ratings. Runner goes to third with 2 outs. And it's easy Ed Kranepool. 1-7, Ed. Let's take a look at the Kranepool card, because, you know, he did a good thing. Ed Kranepool hit 323 and 75. And he hasn't had a homer for the Blue Jays yet, but he's got a ton of singles. Handful of doubles. High batting average. Has the run production, just no power for a first baseman for whatever reason. 1-7 is a base hit into right field. That scores a run after the Hairston grounder moved Foley up on the bases. And now it'll be Cleon Jones in a 2-0 game. 66 off of Palmer is single 1-7, and he can't get it. 2-0. Jerry Royce has a lead. Had a 3-1 lead in Baltimore and served up a homer in the 7th inning. Top of the 6th, he has a 2-hit shutout. He's only lost once this year. That was game 1. He was 5-0 at the All-Star break. Bobby Grich. 2-8 is triple, 1-10, double the rest, and it's a 2-base hit for Bobby. Brooks Robinson. 2-6, single dot. They're on the corners for Kenny Singleton. They're going to play back looking for a double play. 59 off of Royce's second C. That moves the runner up. Scores a run. Runner at second, 1 out. And it's Earl Williams. 1-5 grounds to short. And with 2 outs, it's Doug DeCinces. 6-11, short X, but you got Foley at 2E29. Shortstop makes the play. All right. Well played game. It's 2-1. Bottom of the 6th. And it's Mike Lum. This is the meat here for the Blue Jays, the damage doers. 2-8. Did I look at Lum's card? Can't recall. We'll look at it again. Yeah, I don't recall doing a little dia. Yeah, let's give Mike Lum all the love we can. This is a 2-year All-Star. He took the team to the playoffs last year, trying to do it again. This is Mike Lum's best career year. He's got 554 plate appearances. He's an everyday outfielder, can play first base on a team that's absolutely loaded, the Atlanta Braves of 73. 16 homers, a 294 average, 26 doubles. Great range, great arm. A lefty who kills lefties and righties. You leave him in the lineup as a full-time player. The only thing is, it's the only year he plays this much and does this much damage. It's a shame. He got it all figured out in the year of 1973. And he's doing it all on display today. Triple 1-2, base hit. He's 2 for 3. And now you got Brazil, who we saw his card earlier. 1-5 or 1-6 may be on the way. Here's the pitch to Jim Brazil. What? You gotta be kidding me. Boy, man, he's just gonna start taking that bat and pointing to center field like the Bambino himself, with the baggy trousers. Jim Brazil on cue, another dinger, Oriole killer, in a series where they haven't won a game yet, but he's still tearing up the Orioles. 2-run homer, and we got a 4-1 affair. Tommy A.G., 2-8, third. Milt May, 55, double 1, base hit. And Palmer's getting knocked around again. He threw a 12-hitter and won in game 1. Darrell Chaney, 2-11. Oh, boy. The Blue Jays are back to their old tricks. These are the tricks they used when they swept the Boston Red Sox 4 straight. When Darrell Chaney had back-to-back triples in one of his games. Consecutive plate appearances. 2-11, triple 1-12. That is a triple. One of the one he had in 1974 with the Cincinnati Reds. And it's 5-1 off of a confused Jim Palmer, who's only has a 500 record, by the way. Tim Foley, 45, pops to first. And with 2 outs, runner at third, Jerry Hairston. 1-4 is a fly ball to right field. 5-1 Blue Jay lead. They cannot let this one get away. They've let a lot get away, but it's time to stop the bleeding. Get a win or 2 or 3 or 4 again in this series. To show everybody, look, we're real. This is not a fluke. That was a slump. Every team gets into slumps. We're going to come out of it today. Top of the 7th. It's Lee May leading off. 43, pitcher X. Royce is an E0. Don't roll my E0 pitchers. Dick Sharon, who's done absolutely nothing this year for Baltimore. 68, he flies to right. I'll have to see if I can remember to look up his stats. And Paul Blair, 33, he hasn't done much either for the Orioles. He skies to center field. Stretch time in Toronto. Finally, a joyous affair for the Canadians. We are enjoying, of course, 21-21. No, 21-12, Rush, 1976. Just a year out of the timeline. I was just in the mood for it, though, folks. We're somewhere in the middle of side 2 here. 21-12 is side 1. And then they have the Bangkok, Twilight Zone, all that stuff on side 2. Plus some live stuff in the bonus edition. 21-12, the breakthrough classic by Rush. Geddy Lee, big Blue Jay fan. Neil Peart and Alex Lyson and company. Great stuff, of course. Bottom of the 7th, Jim Palmer, 5-1 game. You want to give him some time off to think to himself? I mean, he gave up 12 hits in his last start against these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, that's 22 hits in 15 innings. Yeah. Palmer's just, he's overworked. Let's give him some time off to think about things. He'll leave after 6. And they're going to go to Joe Horlin in the 7th. Horlin, acquired from the Chi Sox. 72, ERA of 3 in 84 innings. The White Sox had a surplus of right-handed pitching relievers. They let Horlin go. In the 7th, it'll be Ed Kranepool leading off. 1-4, center. Cleon Jones, 68, center. And Mike Lum, 310, second base. We'll go to the 8th, Jerry Royce. I think they're going to ride their horse. They've seen what the bullpen has done. They got to get a W. You got to hit the point of weakness of Royce, which is the 8th inning. So if it happens, they'll yank him. Otherwise, he's sticking around. Belanger, 49. That's single 1 line out. Back up top to Bobby Grich. 2-7 is a K. And with 2 outs, Brooks Robinson, 58, is a fly to left. That Blue Jay All-Star pitcher. 5-1 lead, bottom of the 8th. And here he is, our boy, Jim Brazil. 6-10. Third X, that's Brooks Seal, 119. Makes the play. Tommy A.G., 39's a base hit. Milt May, 2-7 is single 1 of 14. Cannot get it on a 19. Darrell Chaney, 64, short X. Now, we've tested all Baltimore's infield. Blander's a 1E24. You notice those E ratings are all high, though, and they've made some mistakes this year. Grich is 20, Blander 24, and Robinson 19. That is, that's it's obviously what it is. It's 73 errors for those guys. 63 errors for those guys. Okay. 5-1 in the 9th. Can we help Jerry with some defense? Not really. Want to leave it alone. Nothing, no noticeable improvement. In the 9th for the Orioles. First time they've stunk up the offense in the series. Ken Singleton leads off. 1-4, flies to center. Earl Williams, 37, single 1 to 11, cannot convert. And with 2 outs, Doug DeCinces, 37 is a strikeout, and Jerry Royce, and finally the Blue Jays are back on the high side of life. They get a victory. They pulled to within a game and a half of Baltimore. I mean, think about that. I mean, pull to within 2 or have a lead versus. I mean, these are expressions no one thought Toronto would say. Certainly in the later 70s, early 80s. They were just dreaming of 3rd or 4th place. I mean, they had no chance of winning a division. But this particular crew has been outstanding. How about this start? 5 hits, a run, no walks, 5 Ks for Jerry Royce. Joe Horlin in relief, a single, that was it. Palmer knocked around again. 10 hits and 5 runs. Just hasn't been his year. No walks, 2 strikeouts. We'll look at some stats here before we actually play the next games. 1009, 0108, 51115, 51115, 0502, 0502. That means the game and a half. There's a +3 separation between the 2 teams. Should be 4-1 when we get to looking at the stats. No idea how long the series could go, folks. Could be done tomorrow. Could be the entire 8 games. We've had a wild year. So the Blue Jays are 16-15. Jerry Royce is 6-1. Their bullpen has 3 total saves. So yeah, and their bullpen is 1 win and 7 losses and 3 saves in 31 games. So stay out of the bullpen if you can, if you're the Blue Jays. Our boy Jim Brazil, he got 10 dingers, 28 RBIs. He's 26 for 129. That's not a good average though. Seems like it's all or nothing with him. Does anybody have? Oh, we got some 43. Yeah, Cranepool is 43 for 129. Hitting 333. Mr. Lum. You know, Mr. Lum is hitting 376. So yeah, that's crazy town. Actually, Cranepool 376. Lum's hitting 333. You get the idea there. All right, now Baltimore. Got to check out Dick Sharon first because that's really bothered me here. What is this guy doing? Yeah, he's 13 for 62. He's hitting 210. See, sometimes when you bring in a free agent, I mean, look at the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays obviously are all free agents, and you see all the success. Sometimes, though, you go outside your organization, you look for some help, and then it backfires. So Sharon's been awful. Horland has been okay. Baylor Moore's been okay. Actually, Milt Pappas technically a free agent. He didn't play for Baltimore in 72. He's doing all right. Tom Hutton's been a nice find. Chris Cannizzaro, okay at best. But, boy, Sharon's been awful. Palmer's 5-6. Yeah, no sugarcoating that. The Baltimore bullpen is outstanding, though. They are 7-2 with 6 saves. Grant Jackson, 6 runs in 16 innings. Baltimore's up to a 2.43 average and a 3.99 ERA. Both numbers just not good enough. Even though they got to this little winning streak, they've scored 150 runs and given up 158. So it just shows you they got lucky. The Orioles got lucky to beat the Blue Jays. I'm going to say the Blue Jays have a better net differential. Let's go check it out. Oh, yeah, they are. Blue Jays, 134 runs for, 118 runs against. Their pitching staff's given up 40 fewer runs than Baltimore. 31 games played for Toronto. 36 games played for Baltimore. Wow. And overall, you see the lead is cut to 1.5 games. So the Blue Jays need to win a game 6 and puts them within a half a game. Then a game 7 puts them a half game ahead, and they can't stop there because Baltimore says, hey, we got the head-to-head tiebreaker. We got to play a game 8. And that's when they will, because you can't win by half game. Have to be at least a game ahead to finish a round in first or second place. So we'll get to that. Game 6 and 7 will be back in Baltimore. Game 8 would be back in Toronto, if there is one. It'll be Mike Cuellar versus Clyde Wright. A rematch of a really great game was just played a few days ago. These guys are pitching on 3 days rest. That'll be the Game 6 matchup, so stay tuned. All right, baseball fans, here is Game 6. A rematch of Clyde Wright, Mike Cuellar. Pitchers duel early. Bottom of the third, though. Baltimore, singles by DeCinces, Blair, Belanger, and Bobby Grich, and it's 2-0. Stays that way until the 7th inning. Top of the 7th, Cuellar with a shutout. Gets the first 2 guys out, a walk, but then he gets Tim Foley to ground out. Bottom of the inning, Clyde Wright's still in there, down 2-0. After an out, he gives up a walk, a fly out, and then an error by Tim Foley to load the bases with 2 outs. Earl Williams is due up against Clyde Wright. Last time, Clyde Wright gave up a big 3-run homer to Kenny Singleton in the 7th inning in Game 1. So they bring in Rorik Harrison, a righty who dominates righties, and in a surprise move, Baltimore pinch hits for Earl Williams, their cleanup hitting catcher with 28 home runs, with lefty Tom Hutton, because Harrison puts guys on base via a walk, and Baltimore's thinking, just walk in a run, give us a third run. And that's exactly what happens. Tom Hutton walks with the bases loaded, and Baltimore now has a 3-0 lead. But to each his own, because in the 8th inning, after an out, Cuellar walks Lum, walks Brazil, walks Ted Ford, hits his point of weakness. Baltimore goes to its bullpen, brings out Dyer Miller. Bases loaded walk to Milt May. Both teams have done that. As a matter of fact, the two squads in just the 7th and 8th innings alone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 walks. This must have been painful to watch these 2 innings. It's just a 3-1 game, though, because both teams left the bases loaded. And it stays that way. Dyer Miller gets the final out in the 8th. Rorik Harrison allows a couple walks in the bottom half, but they don't do damage. Then in the 9th inning, Baltimore says enough's enough. Let's just go to our closer. We got a 3-1 lead. We can win the series. Grant Jackson finishes the game. A single to Ed Kranepool. And fittingly for Baltimore, they strike out Cleon Jones to end the game. And there's a lot of people rejoicing in Baltimore watching that guy swing and miss. As Baltimore wins Game 6 at home, 3-1, and have won 5 out of 6. This is a super story in the American League, because we had written the Orioles off, particularly against, we knew they were going to play Toronto. We knew Toronto played tough, and they did play tough. But they just lost a lot of nail-biters because they played to their cards, I guess you can say. I guess we deserve to do a little sort here of the standings in the American League East to show a better story here as we speak right now, where we are presently in the American League East. So Baltimore's back to a 2.5 game lead on both the Blue Jays and Red Sox. That might be enough. Red Sox play the Yankees, but they can't gain too much ground because they already have a 3.5 game lead. So all they need is a couple wins, I believe. What do they need, actually? We go to the loser bracket. Here it is. Yankees need to win 6 of 7. So Boston really needs to win the first 2 games so they go +2. Otherwise, they're going to be treading water. Boston could win that series by losing 3 games to 2 or losing 4 games to 2 to the Yankees or whatever it would be. So Boston really needs to win the first 2 games of that one. And that would put them within a game and a half of the Orioles if they win the first 2 games. So right now, Baltimore, they have crept up, at least at this moment. You got Oakland, you got the White Sox here, and then you have, they're at a 3 right now. In the next round, the East and West meet. So Baltimore would play Oakland in the second round, up to 5 to distinguish seeding purpose. Oakland's 14 over 500. Baltimore 5, that means it's 9 over 500, which is 4.5. So Orioles are in trouble there. They need to win 5 straight. They need to beat Oakland 5 times in a row. As soon as Oakland wins a game, that series is over. So it looks pretty much like no big surprise. Oakland is most likely going to be the number 1 seed in the American League unless the remarkable thing happens. And Baltimore wins 11 of 12. No, 10 of 11. So, anyway, break up the Orioles. They take care of the Toronto Blue Jays, beating them 5 out of 6 times. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you next time.